The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Wednesday morning. Thrilled to be here with you. You know I love Wednesdays. We start the show with Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grampichet is here to answer your questions live on the show. We're excited to have her here. We're excited to hear your questions. And then a little bit later, in an hour, we will have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will join me for that very special hour. And our guest today is Vince Redman, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist who's going to help us to try to understand today the kinds of things that we can be doing to lower our stress and to know when we're overwhelmed. There's some stories in the news today that we're going to be covering that deal with autism parents who are very overwhelmed and as a result of that doing some things that are quite horrific. So we're going to see if we can't be on the positive side of that story, lower our stress and deal with some of that overwhelm. And again, Vince is a licensed marriage and family therapist, but the added caveat is that he has spent many, many years, decades now, working in the field of autism as a therapist and many other capacities. So he understands both sides of that equation. Thrilled to have him in the second hour with Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson. But first, as I said, we're going to have Dr. Doreen Grampichet, and we want you to be able to participate with us in both of these really important hours. So I'm going to ask you to pay attention. Kelby is going to show some different ways that you can be participating on the screen. While he's doing that, I'm going to fill your head with some more information to make it really confusing. But our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, we hope that you'll participate with all the different things that we have going on there. Please make sure that you check out our blog. And we love it when you like us on Facebook and when you sign up for our free newsletter. All those things to do on top of watching the live show or a recently recorded live show. And then to the side of where you're watching the show are a series of white boxes. Put your cursor in the one that says your question, start typing, hit enter, and it will appear here on my screen. And in that way, we'll be able to talk almost in real time, which is a lovely thing. It's completely free. You're not even having to log in. We don't ask you for any personal information. It's just type, hit enter, and it shows up here, which is a lovely thing. Now, the bad part of that is that we have no idea where in the world you're writing from. Please reference that for us, because if you're asking for resources, the best way that we can begin that conversation is by knowing where you are in the world. I wish that autism were the same if you are in Oklahoma or if you're in California. Unfortunately, the resources aren't. So help to reference at least state or country or what the biggest city is near you. And if you want to, you can put information in there on how we can get back to you. I promise we won't share that with the audience at home. Okay, so please participate with us. It certainly makes it so much more fun when you do. And it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grampichet.
Dr. Grampichet.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask the question on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm sitting here with Dr. Doreen Grampichet. Welcome to the show.
Thank
Thrilled
you
to
very
have
much.
you here. I was just saying as we were running the opening for the show about how we need you to think, because you are somebody who is brilliant in this field. You're an expert in the field of autism. But as important, if not more important to a lot of us, you are a visionary in this field. You have big ideas. You see the big picture. You see everybody's part in this big spectrum. And you have have been a fearless leader for so many of us to find our way to progress and support.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
Well,
You're just so
thank
kind.
you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you so much, and we want to let everybody know that this is a wonderful opportunity. When I think back to my early days when my son was diagnosed, if I had had the opportunity for an hour a week to listen to you answer questions and to put forth questions that you could weigh in on, what that would have been worth to me is amazing in my
so
head.
glad. Yeah, no, and I enjoy it. I have to say, I really do. Like, it not only reminds me of the issues that parents are going through and the things they need guidance on, but it just it's pretty satisfying, I would say, for me to have contact with so many families all over the world. It's really nice.
Well, we love it too. And again, I want to encourage people, you guys have been writing in. Every week they start writing in a couple of days earlier. So we have questions all week long for you
Wonderful.
now, which is a wonderful
terrific.
thing. But I want to remind everybody right here that it's impossible in this format for anyone, even someone of Dr. Grandpichet's caliber, to give individual specific advice, because in this format it would be a disservice to the individual if it would be saying that you could know too many things that you can't know in this format in a very short period of time.
Absolutely.
But having said that, the more information that you give Dr. Grandpichet, the more things that she can raise and talk to you about, that I think, and you guys have written in and said overwhelmingly, that it helps to point you in a direction of where to go next.
Right, yeah.
And that's invaluable.
That's all we want to do, really, is to give some guidance for immediate issues and to be able to sort of give you the overall picture. And most of the time we'll be referring to professionals, of course, but
I think it makes us more productive when we get to the professional, because we can start in a place that isn't fishing around for things.
Right.
It hones what we're doing, so it saves us all kinds of time, and actually will save you energy and money when you get to the professional that you're dealing with, because you're going to have a better idea of what kinds of things to ask.
right, absolutely.
So I love this. I want to get started with a question that came in on our Facebook, because you guys know that you can participate in lots of different ways. You can be tweeting, you can be Facebooking us, and you can participate in the live feature. But this one came in on the Facebook this morning. My 5-year-old ASD son just began kindergarten in a gen ed setting with a one-to-one shadow. Mm-hmm. He has some trouble paying attention and staying on task, as well as processing multiple step group directions. Can you talk about some potential classroom or individual accommodations to address those challenges? It's a
Right.
great question.
Very good question. And it said 5-year-old, what's...
ASD just began kindergarten,
okay,
gen
so
ed,
kindergarten general ed,
one-to-one shadow.
and has a one-to-one shadow.
Which can we
is-
just start by celebrating and saying, you rocked that,
Yeah,
Mom.
seriously, you have you have everything you need.
That's right.
You have the best toolbox right here. So yeah, paying attention. I mean, there's a lot of different things I'll throw, and the issue is mainly just paying attention, right, and following multi-step instructions or
Processing
directions.
multi-step group directions.
Right, so multi-step and group. Okay, so I mean, I'll give you some general ideas, but I really, really suggest that you go on skills and do a full skills assessment, because this is the perfect situation. If you have a 5-year-old in general education, kindergarten, my assumption, and with a one-to-one aid, though my assumption is when my 5-year-olds get to kindergarten and they're in regular ed, they're doing pretty well. They have language deficits and social deficits mainly, but they don't really exhibit a lot of challenging behaviors anymore at this point. And so my focus becomes teaching them all the advanced sort of pragmatic language issues, and then also their social skills, obviously, which includes all the cognitive skills and executive functioning and all of that whole advanced curriculum area. So if that's your child, then please go on skillsforautism.com and become a member. Like, you will hugely benefit, because you'll see a curriculum of ideas, essentially lessons and lesson plans and things to teach your child that are specifically for your child, and you'll really benefit. We really have I would say pretty unique curriculum when it comes to the kind of higher functioning kids 5 to 8. It's a very, very fantastic program. I think you can even actually get it as a separate product on its own, which is skills cognition.
Yes.
Advanced cognition, right? I think that's what we call it.
I will find that out. I'm not sure the actual, because it's new.
Yeah, and I think it's called advanced cognition.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but we went through so many names. But anyway, that stuff is critical to you now, because it'll teach you everything. It'll show you how to teach your child everything from actually attending to when it's appropriate to look at other kids and model from them, to how to self-monitor, which is critical, to how to respond appropriately, how to, if you get lost and didn't catch the instructions from the teacher, what are the things can you do to figure out where you are, to how to play on the playground, how to do lunch at school, how to, again, everything you need for school essentially is in there. Now, having said that, you have a tutor, so that tutor should be trained. You said one-to-one shadow or tutor or something, so I assume this person is trained, and so they should be able to follow those lesson plans pretty well. Some of the things you can do right away in school are kind of just environmental things, so make sure that your child is kind of sitting in an area that's least possible to be distracted. So not by a window, not on the last row,
not directly behind the blonde girl with the ponytail who swishes her head. That's what they did with Jem the first week, and then they went, oops, we need to move him.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So put your child in the front row preferably, or where the teacher stands most often. And, you can ask the teacher, the aide can set up a token system for the child. So a very, very basic, paying attention, like every time you follow an instruction or complete a task, you get a star. And at the end of the day, X number of stars can get you some form of reward. That's a token economy. If your aide can't do that, then you can have a board-certified behavior analyst produce one for you, or you can also go to IBT, Institute for Behavioral Training, which the website is ibehavioraltraining.com, and on there you'll find actually a module that trains you how to do token economies, and that's really important because token economies are kind of tricky. So you have to do them right. Those are some of the things that you can do to help your child feel more rewarded. Make sure the teacher is working collaboratively with you so that everything is broken down for your child so it's not overwhelming. Make sure your child is allowed things like frequent breaks, a lot of reinforcers for staying on task. Make sure nobody removes your child if they don't stay on task or if they act out, because then you're rewarding that behavior. What else is there in classroom?
In terms of multi-step group directions.
Right. So multi-step is very easy because it's a shaping procedure. I mean, you basically start with one step and then you go to rotating one steps, different things that are one step, and then you tag on a second step, and you can do it with backward chaining. So you'll have the child you'll model the first step and have the child carry out the second step on their own, and then you'll gradually have the child carry out 2 steps. So that shouldn't be hard, and there's a million different examples of, everything in our curriculum pretty much goes into multi-step. It starts first one step and then multi-step. So some of the,
while you take a pause, I just want to point out for them listening that you understand one of the things that when you talk about shaping it, sometimes as parents we go, but I'm not there. And I just want to remind you that you can ask the teacher, what are the multi-step group directions that you give, and you can be working that at home.
Yes.
We had so much fun doing that at home before kindergarten, that the transition they would transition to 4 different groups for circle time, and we would do that. And the whole family would participate, and the therapist would do it. We would do the same thing, that she had a chime that she would ring. So we did we rehearsed what was going to happen in the classroom. And that seems like, that didn't occur to me. Mm-hmm. It seems like, duh, well, why not? But I just want to point out that you can be doing those things at home, and when you give them the opportunity to do it 10 times at home, and then they do it once in the classroom with everybody else, and they see they're successful, it's like ding, 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 ding.
And you should do it at home, and thank you for bringing that up, because I keep making the assumption it's one of my kids, which means we've already taught all the multi-step at home. this is the reason that we do so much intervention at home before the child is introduced to school, because school is not necessary. When you're in school, you're supposed to be listening and learning content, like academic content. That's not, a lot of us forget that, and we think that, oh, school is the best place for my child to learn socialization. It's not really. I mean, your child is socializing, obviously, because there are moments of time where they will socialize. And of course, your child is learning things like multi-step instructions in a group, but those are things that your child's supposed to already be familiar with. And when you try to teach it during the classroom setting and the child is trying to learn the content, the academic content, it's a little overwhelming.
You're going to miss something.
Yeah, so please practice these things at home. There's multi-step applies to so many things.
Yeah.
Everything in real life is multi-step. Get your lunchbox and go stand in line. That's 2 steps.
Right.
Fill out this flyer, and the first section will be one thing and the second section will be another, or you have to read it and circle it, whatever. Everything is multi-step. But so you really need to practice exactly the things your child's having a hard time with at home first. So that's one thing. In terms of group, you have an aide there. When we have aides in the classroom and an instruction is given, the aide, and if the child is not paying attention, then the aide can prompt or model the child to listen at the correct time. But also, we actually use the group as models. So if the child misses the instruction given, then the child is prompted to kind of look at others and see what they're doing, and that helps them identify what they're supposed to do as well. Again, usually the fact that there's other children there is not the reason that our child is losing attention. It's more because they're just distracted. So, one of the things we've even done is we've set up a mock classroom. We used to call it mock classroom, and initially you'd have our child when they're very young and a whole bunch of stuffed animals or something pretending to be in a classroom. But ultimately what you want to do is just do it with siblings, cousins, neighbors, whatever, and you pretend that at home too. So, there's a lot of things you should just be practicing at home. School readiness stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great question, great answers, great things for you to do. Don't get overwhelmed.
No, it's fun. This is fun stuff.
It is fun stuff. This is the good stuff when you get to this point, because it's all doable.
Absolutely.
And when you do work on these things, you're going to see a big jump. And make sure that you have fun when you're rehearsing them. We had a great time playing school, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. So.
And don't get discouraged if you go on skills and you actually answer the assessment questions. If you should find that there are more delays than you thought, don't let that discourage you, because we're very, very obsessive about things, and we try to be just because of these situations. Because if you're really obsessive about every little thing and you teach it to the child in great detail at home, when they get to school they have a very strong foundation. Yeah. And I think that's really critical, because it's such a fluid situation and environments are changing all the time. We want our kids to be very well equipped.
Yeah, but I always go back to thinking of an Olympic athlete. When you were talking, I was thinking about the guys who did the downhill jump.
Absolutely, yes.
And thinking if they decided to do the downhill jump and to start doing that on the mountain the first time,
yes,
and all they ever did was rehearse it on the mountain, they would keep missing moments in which they needed to make a change.
Right.
But they don't rehearse that way. They rehearse on equipment, and they practice jumping on a little balance beam before they get to the mountain, and then they keep going back to the balance beam so that they get better at it. It's just building skills.
Right.
This isn't a new concept, rehearsing things. It's why we practice fire drills, so that when the actual thing happens, we'll have some memory of being able to do it.
Absolutely. It's
so
exactly
rehearsing,
the same. Right.
It's cool.
Right.
It's a cool and fun thing to do. Okay, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here with us. She's answering your questions in real time, so keep them coming in. Our next question, hello and good morning. I have a son who is mainstreamed in the 6th grade with supports. He reads and writes at the 3rd grade level. My problem is that he is extremely emotional with me and my husband. Anytime we have to talk about anything related to school or even the smallest request like, please put your plate in the sink, he cries and storms away. He has always comes back to us very remorseful. He has had a low emotional control since he was a baby. We are very calm and supportive when we approach him, but it's the same reaction every time. What can we do differently? And thank you.
Oh, so you need some behavioral training. It just sounds so adorable to me. I mean, I apologize for laughing. It's just I find our kids so cute in that way because they're so adorable. Like they just react to the silliest things, And
I have to say, just in a, we're partners here, kind of moment, that Jem has a friend who started homeschooling this year. And he and his friend, they were walking home from the pool the other day, and I was walking behind them, and they were having a conversation. And the other boy turned around and said, you should homeschool Jem. And I said, oh, that would be interesting. And he said, why did you kind of laugh? And I said, because whenever I try to talk to Jem about anything having to do with school, it's like a 9-inch nail in his head, the way he reacts.
Yeah, of course.
And the kid said, what do you mean? And Jem said, no, it's true. I hate it when she talks to me. I hate it. I hate the sound of her voice when she talks to me about these things. And we were laughing about it. But, it hurts when our kids are that way just with us.
Well, I don't know. It's something you have to just be okay with, I guess. I talk to my kids and I realize that I'm being a psychologist for them, and sometimes I think I'm a pretty good psychologist, but they react like, in a very negative way sometimes, and I realize okay, it's just not working because I'm mom.
Right.
I can't be psychologist, I'm mom, right? And I think mom and dad have you are a different thing to the child. You just are. the place I go to for comfort. You're the place I go to for attention and all of that. And it's very hard for our kids to realize that you're also a human being, and that you know, first of all, our kids have most of the time a deficit in theory of mind, so they have a real hard time realizing, oh, you know, this might hurt my mom and dad's feelings, or what they're asking of me is not too much, or any of those types of things. But these are yet such simple things to teach our kids. And really, I promise you, because if you have a behavior analyst come in and do a functional assessment, you will notice certain things that you never noticed before. We only do certain behaviors because they're rewarded. That's it. There's no other reason to do a behavior. We do behaviors mainly because we want to gain access to something or avoid something, period. And you said that your child, I think, reacts, for instance, if you ask him to do the most simple thing, which is put your plate in the sink.
Yeah.
Right? So put your plate in the sink is a very, very simple thing, but when he does it, you potentially, or if he's done it, you would potentially say, good job, thank you very much, great. That means nothing to him. To a typical child, and I apologize, I'm saying him or her. I think it is a boy.
Yeah.
So, you know, when a typical child, there is a reinforcer attached to just pleasing mom and dad. That's just, it's an inherent reinforcer that exists, is, oh, I got mom and dad to smile, they're happy with me, they're proud of me. That's how our typical kids, that's why they do things. With our kids on the spectrum, it's not that meaningful for them, because they don't really have that ability to kind of see how their action produced a positive response in you, and it doesn't mean all that much to them, so it's not a reward. It's not motivating for them to do something to please you. So, and on the other end of the spectrum, I don't know if you are, when he doesn't do it, are you freaking out? Are you having a reaction about it? And perhaps that's what he's more interested in, is, oh, I kind of take them off, or I got them to get upset, or so that might be his reinforcer. So when you do a functional assessment, you realize that you base your reactions, which is the consequence or the reinforcer that you're giving the individual, the child. You base them off of what is really reinforcing to the child. So, you know, if he places his plate in the sink, then he should get something that is really valuable to him. And it could be a huge reinforcer at first. Could be a food item. It could be dessert. You only get dessert if you put your plate in the sink, and then you'll get dessert. And you know, and then you gradually, if you do something that's a large reinforcer, then you gradually reduce the amount of dessert and increase the demand. You always start with a very slow demand, very small demand and high reward, and then you gradually reverse that, right? And increase the demand and reduce the reward. But the point is that first you have to really identify what's rewarding to him, and what are you doing in the natural scenario, in the natural consequences of his environment that's rewarding, and you're not aware of it, because something's maintaining this behavior of him reacting. Perhaps he reacts and then you give him attention. I don't know, and these are the things you find out through a functional assessment. I would suggest a place to start is go to the CARD's BIP Builder, which I think the website is
skillsbipbuilder.com.
skillsbipbuilder.com. And in there you'll see it starts with what's called a CFA, which is a CARD indirect functional assessment. You answer a bunch of questions there about the behavior. When it occurs, what types of things happen before it, what types of things happen after it, and so on. And it takes you to the BIP Builder, which is Behavior Intervention Plan. And it specifically tells you how to modify what it is you're doing. It'll give you like 20 suggestions on how to fix this problem.
Okay.
This is very, very behavioral. This is a very easy thing to fix. And I know you get emotional about it because it's only towards you. But that's because probably it's harder for him to accept that you can also give negative contingencies. You possibly never have.
And just know that every single parent who ever took a breath at some point inadvertently reinforced a behavior without realizing that they did it. You are not alone.
Oh my gosh,
we've
no
all
question,
done it.
no question about
And
it.
I still do it, even though I know
we do it
better.
all the time. We do it all
Right?
the time, absolutely.
So just know that it's not that you've taken the cart off the wheels because you totally don't, this happens. This is just part of what happens. And then we just learn new skills and we do things better, and
Absolutely
everything
right.
gets better as a result of it.
Absolutely.
So wonderful. Okay. Great question here. I started a new job caring for an 8-year-old autistic child. He has an extreme case of speech delay. He is in speech therapy as well as many other therapies to help him learn and communicate. Do you have any suggestions that would help me to help him possibly talk more? For example, specific exercises, songs that might encourage his speech development.
That's a tough one. I mean, yes, of course, we have a million things that you can do that would increase his speech development. I guess the short answer to this would be go on skills for autism and go into the language curriculum. There's a whole section called pre-verbal, and there's a whole bunch of activities that have to do with just, oral motor exercises to do. And then there's, I don't know, several hundred lessons that just focus on speech and language. So my personal experience, and if you have speech therapists working on the case already, is have a conversation with them about prompt training, the prompt technique of getting speech. I have found that to be very effective with our kids. It's just a technique used by certain speech pathologists who've been trained in it, and it involves touching specific sections of the mouth in order to produce a sound, and it really is pretty effective. Like it's a really good technique. And another thing you could do is if there's, first of all, again, with speech development, you need tons and tons of practice. So if you're working with this child, any free moment of the day, you should be practicing, rehearsing exactly what the speech therapist does. I would hope that this is someone who is getting a lot of ABA as well as speech, because ABA will help the child also develop a lot of language. And my personal feeling is that when people get speech therapy, it's usually 2-3 hours a week max, and it's not enough.
Yeah.
You need something like 30 hours a week or 20 hours a week of just continued practice.
Okay, and you wrote that you started a new job caring for an 8-year-old, and I'm wondering if you've had experience with ABA before. I will just say to you
yes.
that I'm very slowly doing the RBT and loving it. If you want to learn how to be really effective with this child, you can go to ibehavioraltraining.com. There are so many lessons there. There's lessons for professionals, there's lessons for teachers, there's lessons for parents, but there's also something now called an RBT designation, where you can actually get a certification, which will be very useful to you for this job and for other jobs. But beyond that, just doing the different modules, and you can buy them individually. They're very inexpensive, $7, some of them, and become more effective.
Yes, and it is, you're very right, Shannon, and the RBT is registered behavior technician, and it'll be very valuable to you to have that credential. And it requires 40 hours of training modules that you can take in short segments here and there online, and then a certain amount of practicum and oversight with a board-certified person who I'm sure we can also help you find. I mean, we have BCBAs all over the country, but IBT does a whole training, and they provide the supervision as well.
Yeah, so amazing opportunity for you to be able
Yes.
to learn an amazing set of new skills. I love the fact that you're interested and that you want to know more about how to help this child. We can use more people like you.
Yes, absolutely.
So
What
get
a
that
lucky
training.
family to have you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with more of Ask Dr. Doreen after these messages.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm Shannon Penrod, and I'm here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, who is answering your questions in real time. So keep them coming in. One short note, somebody has written in who says that they're in one of the newer East Coast offices. Can you do me a favor and send us your email address so that we can address your question specifically? Okay, this next one. Hi, Dr. Doreen. My son is a card client, and my supervisor finally got me an appointment to see you.
Oh, cool.
What do I need to do to prepare for your consultation? I'm so excited to finally meet you. This is a great question about, here's this time. They want to be able to use it wisely. So what do they need to do? I'm really excited.
You don't really need to do anything. Your supervisor will bring everything with them. I mean, either you're one of our clients. We've had a lot of new technology at CARD. So either you're one of those people whose case is completely, depending on which office you're at, is completely on the iPad now. So I'll have access to all your data. Typically when a supervisor brings a family, they come and they will also give me a summary report before I see you, and I will have access to all of your behavioral stuff. Now, what would be very helpful is if you could bring medical records when you come to see me, because I'd love to know some medical history, and that's about it. I just need to be able to see reports, medical history, and then your logbook essentially will be on the iPad, or you will bring the logbook. If you're not on the iPad, bring your logbook, because I need to look at that. And then we'll spend a couple of hours and review things, answer your questions. I will generally talk to you first, see what your main issues are, and then I will try to address those first, some more global issues. And then after that, I will go through every single program and try to review the whole program and see where you're at, give you some idea of the next steps, see what your supervisor is doing. If I have any feedback for them, I will give that. So yeah, it'll be a fun thing we'll have fun. It's always fun for me. And some of the best advice I've ever gotten about anytime you meet with any kind of professional is before you go to write your questions down. Write down your questions. That's so that helpful, because you get nervous or something happens and it distracts you and you think, oh, I forgot to ask about that. How could I have forgotten? That was the most important thing. So I not only write my questions out, but then I rearrange them in terms of the priority of what I want answered the most, what I'm the most concerned about. And then I try to take a couple of minutes, like during the week before going to an appointment, to find a quiet time to sit down and think about the meeting and what I want to accomplish. Right. And just visualize that, and so that I go in and I feel like it's all going to go really how I want it to go. Right. And the truth is that when I do that, when I take the time, and I do this before an IEP meeting too, is I try to sit down and just take a quiet moment and visualize going in, because sometimes you feel like, in an IEP meeting especially, you feel like, oh, I'm worried about this, and what if this happens, and with you, it's all going to be just fun and light and whatever. Yeah. But they will be nervous, I'm sure. The first time I met you, I was so nervous you could have bounced a quarter off my head. No, it's a really fun. I enjoy it. I mean, sometimes parents are in a tough place. Yeah. And then obviously it's not a fun thing, but I'll, hopefully, I don't, my meetings are always positive. Yes. I mean, I'll help or we'll have fun. Yeah. And so enjoy it. But, when you take that time to kind of be centered about what do I hope to achieve, right? Then no matter what happens, you know why you're there. Right. And that's always a helpful thing. I mean, and that also goes to the other question where the family had written about being in one of our East Coast offices. Yes. I really just want to be able to connect with that family in order to be able to help with whatever issues they're having. Yeah. Because, that it's sort of more of an operational type question about card, and I don't want to ignore it by any means, but I want to know what's going on with you so that I can help.
Okay, we like that. I'm going to move on to the next question. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. My 13-year-old covers his ears when he's nervous. Not necessarily sound related. He's anxious of unexpected on-off sounds. He covers his ears for fear of hearing no to a question, or he thinks we caught him doing something. More recently, he was fine hearing a streetcar bell until I pointed to the streetcar as a novelty. We were in a part of town we don't usually go to. Why do you think he does this, and how do we help him? Thank you. It's so great to learn about autism and laugh at the same time. We have to laugh. I mean, it's just a requirement, right?
It is.
Can't lose the sense of humor.
It is.
All right. So what can we do to help him?
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably got it right in the sense that it is probably the startle reaction to a sound coming on or off. And it could also be just lack of control over the sound, and it could also be unfamiliarity with what the sound is. So if you hear a sound that is a familiar sound, you'll immediately be able to place it in terms of what it is. It might startle you, but you'll be able to place, oh, okay, this is the sound of, even if it's something unusual. So if it's a usual sound, like let's say my phone ringing, okay, that's nothing, because I know the sound immediately. I'll recognize it and it won't startle me, and I'll be fine with it, and I know what to do about it. If it's an unusual sound, it startles me to some extent, but then I kind of know how to handle it, like let's say a fire alarm. Okay. Now, if it's a very unusual sound, like, so let's say in California you hear something like, the sirens for tornadoes, right? You know, you've heard those.
Yes.
You wouldn't even know what to do with it, and you'll stay in panic mode for a while, right? It's kind of like, what the hell is this? I wouldn't have known if I hadn't experienced it in Oklahoma. I wouldn't have known what this is, right? And so you basically, the more familiar you are, the better it is. Now, in general, if you are in control of it, you will have much, much better reaction to it. So, for instance, perhaps practice that. Perhaps give him items like whatever it might be, a timer, buzzer, whatever, things where he can control the onset and offset of the sound. So control always reduces problems. And then beware of your own reaction to it, because if he does this and then you start to, oh, don't do that or whatever, you might be giving attention to something that is increasing just because of the attention factor. In other words, he realizes that whenever he does that, you attend to him. In which case, if that's the case, then you would want to ignore it completely and just, walk away when he does that, very simply. So those are just some suggestions, but again, when it's a specific behavior that you want to deal with, I really do recommend that you also go to skillsbipbuilder.com, and there you do the CFA, the indirect functional assessments we have there. That's where all these questions will be asked, like when does he do it, what do you do when he does it, under what circumstances, all this sort of bunch of questions, and then it'll give you some possible reasons. And then once you know the reason, it's very easy to pick the behavioral intervention that deals with it. In my personal experience, most of the time it's a combination of things. So there's a startle factor, there's a sound sensitivity factor to some extent, and then a lot of times there's a getting attention factor.
Okay. This next question, which is so interesting to me. How do you explain social norm to our kids?
Yeah.
When my son was 7, he was flapping in public. We told him quiet hands. He asked why, and we told him that no one else around is flapping. He then said, why don't we ask the other people to flap? He made a really good point, and I was speechless. He is now 13, and we need guidance of how to tell him about his social awkwardness without hurting his feelings. He is nervous and self-conscious. Thank you. I look forward to your shows every day. I love this question.
It's a fabulous question, and your child is ridiculously high functioning, and that is so intelligent. What an amazing thing to say. Yeah. And, and you are very intelligent, because the way you're looking at it is unique. And it is true. I mean, it's very, very hard to define social norms, because also they change, right? I mean, you know, if you look at when our parents grew up, or even when we were very young, certain things were just not acceptable as social norms. For instance, two men walking hand in hand and kissing would be extremely unacceptable 50 years ago, right? Or even 40 or even 30. But now, as our children grow up, it is completely acceptable. It is totally norm, right? So social norms change. And so that's one thing. And if something is changing, it's impossible to define because it can always change. So the way that I wouldn't try to define social norm, I would try to get my child to understand the whole concept of being accepted and fitting in, I suppose. And I think the best way to do that is to videotape him and videotape other people, and perhaps videotape him in a setting with other people, if you can capture the kind of unusual social things he does, if you can capture them on video, and then to explain to him or ask him what he wants. And most of the time when you have high functioning children like this, they want to fit in, they want to have friends. And I would use comic strips, which are basically cartoon characters that you draw, like stick figures, and that would be him and that would be the other people, and here he is doing some odd behavior, which I assume is not hand flapping anymore, but it's some other thing, and the other people are looking at him, and then you would do like a thought bubble and ask him, what are they thinking, and what are they feeling? They're probably feeling a little confused. Why is he doing that? They're thinking, oh, he's different, and maybe we don't really want to play because he's different, and it may not look very cool, depending on his age and so on. And you essentially start to get him to understand how other people view that behavior, and then it's his choice. In other words, sometimes you have kids who want to do something completely different and stand out, like let's say teenagers who go the goth path, right? I mean, part of their whole thing is, I want to look different. Yeah. I want to have black everything, and that's their security blanket. I'm so different, you can't touch me. And then other times you have kids who want to be invisible. They don't want to stand out in any way, and that's probably the norm, really, as most kids at certain ages don't want to stand out at all. They just want to be part of a group. And so if he wants to be part of a group, he has to resemble the group. Yeah. And resembling the group means not hand flapping or not doing these other things. And I think that's kind of the approach you want to take, because it's your choice. Do you want to stand out or do you want to fit in? And you must have a very, very detailed understanding of theory of mind and cognition of other people in order to get these concepts, because otherwise you would have really a hard time understanding how other people perceive you.
One of the things that I've come to very recently, like in the last 2 weeks, is that all kids have these issues around these same years.
Absolutely.
And that we in the autism community, I think sometimes we feel that it's more severe with us in this time period, but we get a toolkit that a lot of parents don't ever get. Right. If we want to use it.
Right.
We have the tools to be able to help our child navigate this time. And it's a blessing in some ways, because I'm looking at all my friends who have neurotypical kids and what they're going through, and they are lost in this moment in time.
Yes.
Or
at different moments in time. I mean, I see these issues, Shannon, coming up with my 13-year-old and with my 19-year-old and with my 16-year-old. I mean, this is stuff that happens at different ages, and I don't know about you, me personally, I don't think I became the person I am until my 30s. Like, I think that you're very much up and down and reactive to your environment and to your peers and people and so on until much later in life.
Yeah.
That's what forms you and shapes you. So there is no way that you become just kind of everybody's unique. So everybody has certain things they do better, certain things they do worse, certain things that others perceive are cool, certain things that others perceive are odd. Everybody has those things. It's just a matter of coming to a certain balance. Why? Why do we do that? Why do we dress nice?
Yeah.
Well, just because it's part of what other people will judge us on or accept us on. Otherwise, you'd walk around in your pajamas, right?
Which would be my preference.
It
Yes.
would be so nice.
and I'm learning too the importance of tribe.
Exactly. Thank you. That's the word.
Because I'm seeing that both with my child and in my life, and in all my friends' children and in their lives, that when you have a tribe,
yes,
and that means that you can be unique within the tribe, but the tribe accepts you for your uniqueness, then you have everything.
And what a fabulous word. I mean, I never thought that the word tribe would have so much meaning to me, but it truly does, because tribe are your folks. These are the people that are common to you. You are common to them. They follow around with you. You go with them. They are your security blanket. They're your tribe.
Do you know who gave me that word in this context? Was Eustacia Cutler, who is Temple Grandin's, Dr. Temple Grandin's mother. And because I said to her in a recent interview, I said, what do you think? You were so far ahead of your time with what you did with Temple. What do you think you did that changed things and you were so successful? And she said, I will tell you, I think it was the moment in time in which I had her, because it was right after World War II. And she said it was a time when women allowed each other to get closer because our men had just come back from war, and all of our kids were all of our kids. And she said there were so many women in our community who took Temple in to their homes and forced their children to socialize with her, even though she was different and they didn't know what it was, because we were a tribe.
It's so true. It's so true. And having a tribe is so amazing. Like, it's just incredible. I see that with my husband's family. You know, his family is so large that they're a tribe of 40 people, and it's so incredible. It just really is. Talk about sharing children.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like everyone is all at each other's place, and it's a tribe.
Yeah. Well, I don't think
amazing.
I had found my tribe until I was in the autism community, and now I have found my tribe.
And that's such an amazing tribe. It really is. And
my favorite tribe ever. I'm glad I'm here.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of really incredible people.
Yeah.
I agree.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to move on to another question because we're getting out of time. Hi, ladies. Thank you for your show. My son is 4.5 and having problems with his tracing, coloring, and grasping of writing tools. He just started a typical preschool, and his private OT sees him in the classroom. She says he shuts down and his demeanor changes when he has to work on anything to do with writing. He can only trace at this time, but doesn't know how to hold the writing tools properly. My question is, what type of reinforcers could they use that are discreet, since the other kids won't be getting this? I wanted to give them some ideas. He loves his iPad, but that would not work in the classroom. Thanks for the ideas. Just trying to keep him moving forward.
Good for you.
Yes, bless you.
This is again though one of those scenarios where we think that these tasks only should be worked at school, and that's not the case. Obviously you need some reinforcers. He needs practice. This is a motor skill. This is, to begin with, it's a motor deficiency which you can overcome very easily, but you will need to practice it. Motor skills take a lot of repetition. So so you should practice it at home. This is number one. I would reinforce it with whatever is meaningful to him at home. Obviously, iPad might be a little. You want to have reinforcers that are small because you want to be able to give them, and they only take a very short period of time away from him, because otherwise you're doing a little bit of practice and half an hour of reinforcement, you're not going to get too much done. So you need to do, worksheets, and you'll have worksheets where he's tracing, and you gradually reduce the thing that he's tracing over so he can't see it and he's writing. But you should also purchase for him a bunch of tools. There are a lot of things like grips that you put on the pencil, which makes the thing bigger, and it's triangular in shape, so it actually shows you how to hold the thing. The pincer grasp is really important. It's one of the first things you have to teach the child. So you kind of have to teach the child how to hold. A lot of kids still write like this. A lot of kids write like weird ways. If you do this is the natural way to do it, and it's the right way to do it. And then it's just a matter of correct pressure, and then going over lines. We have a ton of different tricks that if you go in our curriculum, academic curriculum, there's a lot of tricks there. But please practice it at home and give him assistance and modeling.
And just we've done a whole series of shows on pincer and tripod grasps before. You can search that in our YouTube. And those different things, the pencil grips, they are in of themselves very reinforcing, letting them pick out, and you can get a bucket of them that they can choose which one. They have ones that are in the shape of a dinosaur.
Yeah.
That they have to put their fingers on the legs of the dinosaur, and ones that light up, ones that are gushy, ones that are
awesome.
glitter. I mean, there's everything under the sun, every character under the sun. You can get those that are really cool. And in the beginning for us, one of the things that we did, one of the many, many, many things to start with tracing, because getting those little plastic things that you trace, of no interest to him whatsoever.
No.
But Sabrina had us get benderoos, and you've seen those. You can get them at any toy store now, and they're like little pieces of, they look like candle wax.
Yeah.
But they bend and they'll change shapes. And so he would help to bend them, which works on the tripod grasp too, to bend them in the shapes of letters, and then he would trace inside those letters.
Right.
And sometimes in the beginning they bent the letters for him, but they put the pencil in, there's no place it can go, and there's something about it that's
it's just
more
fun. You have to make it fun. We use another thing we use is glue, the colored glue, because it's very thick, and if you do it with a border, then the child stays inside the border. But I mean, you have to make it fun, and again, it's a motor skill, so it requires repetition.
Yeah. So, but make that as fun as you possibly can, and work your way up to other things. It happens, and it takes time, but it actually, when you look back, you'll go, oh, that didn't take so long.
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody says, hi, I live in Cornelius, Oregon. Can I get my son's services from card here? Many thanks.
You are in Oregon. Oregon's mandate for insurance coverage just passed.
Yay! I don't think I even knew that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I think that was like 2 weeks ago or something. It just literally passed in the last couple of weeks. So yes, you can absolutely get coverage. In fact, we're trying to start a center in the Portland area. I don't know where you are. Perhaps you would help us. We need to gather some children so that we have enough clients to actually start a center. The person, fortunately, who deals with starting our centers is John Galley, and he's also the director in charge of remote services. So he would be the person to go to if we don't open a center there, in which case you would need remote services. That means a supervisor comes out to you regularly and hires people in the area, trains them, and starts a program for you and keeps coming out. And he would also be the person to deal with if you had 5-10 other kids who might be interested in services, in which case he would set up an open shop and hand it over to operations. So we're happy to help you. You should really get in touch with John Galley at CARD. His email is j.galley, G-A-L-L-E, at centerforautism.com, centerforautism.com, spelled out.
Okay, great. We are pretty much out of time, so I'm going to go easy on you and not give you a question that's a 17-parter.
Okay.
But I want to encourage people. First of all, I want to say to the person that we asked you to send the email, I want you to know I got it, and I totally get what you sent to me, and I've got you. So it's all good. And if that seems cryptic, it's because it is. Sometimes you guys write to things, and you have my guarantee that we don't share everything sometimes, right? Anyway, but Gotcha. So we're going to take a break and go to the A word. This is the ongoing documentary being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders that follows a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. Take a look as we peer into his home and see what's going on with him and his ever-growing family. After that, we'll be joined by Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and our very special guest, Vince Redman, is going to be here with us. He's a licensed and marriage family therapist. He's going to help us to wade through when we're feeling overwhelmed and when that overwhelmed gets way overwhelmed. So you're going to want to stick with us for that. But first, here is the A word.
Every month, Jack Riley's case supervisor, therapists, and parents meet to check in with one another. During clinic, they determine what skills have been mastered and what new lessons should be added.
Put the line under the truck. Where'd it go? Oh, does that count?
Under.
Oh no! What sound does the lion make? Roar. Roar. Can you put the lion in front of the truck?
Just more fun that way.
Roar. Good job. Open. Open. Well, hold on. Put the lion behind the truck.
Okay, so I'm going to add prepositions. Use reference objects that has all the obvious sides, and make sure that the objects that you're using, like the reference object or the target object that has to manipulate, is not something that's too fun, because then you want him to start playing with it. So just sort of keep it neutral items.
In the lesson prepositions, they first start with on top, since Jack Riley can clearly see what's being referenced. Once he understands that preposition, they'll include more complex ones, such as underneath or behind. The reason those are complex is that the child cannot see what is being referenced.
Do you know how many Tonka trucks your dad had?
You didn't say them for him?
No. About the time I was 40, I didn't think I was going to have any kids.
And now look at you.
Look at me now.
Slow down. Slow down.
Look, you gotta get 5. 5? Good. And you can go play, okay? Sit better, okay? Look, it's a monkey.
It's a monkey.
I'll point to the next one.
It's a monkey. It's a potato.
Good.
In this lesson, they are stringing together mastered labels to make sure Jack Riley remembers them all. This exercise works on his language fluency.
Oh, he did it!
I wish you
Here,
guys
here's a
could see his
sticker.
face. He was so proud of himself.
And
The
he
little
wasn't
like
away
half
from you.
smirk. So cute.
Look, here you go.
Becker.
Cookie.
This is going to be a fun program.
Yes.
What?
Okay, here you go.
Oh, look
Say, can I? Stop talking. Can you say, can I have the guitar? Sure. There you go. Turn it on. What guitar? Say, can I? Guitar. Sure. Here you go. Yay! See you soon. Do you want more? Purple iPhone. You want the purple iPhone? Alright, we can work with that too. That's a bit. What? That's a bit. Oh, it is an elephant. What color is it? Pink. Say it's a. Oh, bless you. You say it's a pink elephant. A pink has a bit. There you go. It is a pink elephant.
It was only 9 weeks ago when we first saw Jack Riley independently tagged with joy detention, and in that time he's become a lot more vocal. Jack Riley is needing less prompting to speak, and his speech isn't only reserved for manding, but is becoming more and more social. He wants to engage others in his experience instead of using people only as tools to receive objects that he wants.
What do you? Why iPhone? Can iPhone? Okay, say can I have? iPhone. Okay, you say. Can I iPhone? Say can I have? iPhone. Say can I have? iPhone. Say have. Can I iPhone? Good trying, buddy. That's a good try. Here you go. Kind of all slurred there. It's okay. So that's a new target we have in Mans. We're trying to expand his frames of asking for things because he's so good about saying I want and give me. So we want him to start asking in different ways. So Sabrina wanted us to start teaching him can I have, and then we'll expand to may I have. As you saw in clinic, she wants us to work on fluency too, and he's getting a lot better with the it's a item. I don't know if you remember like footage from like months ago when we were doing labels and all he wanted to say was the object. Like he didn't want to say it's at all. What is it? Say it's. Yeah, it's a chicken. Good job. 2 more stickers. Look.
What do you mean by language fluency?
Oh, so that when he speaks, it's more fluid. It's not like broken up, and it's not slurred either. Right? Yay! There you go, buddy. Very good. That was very good. He picked it up really fast. Still slurred, but nonetheless, still pretty good. But I guess as you can see, like through your footage, like he picks up things in like a couple trials, and he already knows it. All right, my turn. Do you want more penguin? More penguin. Okay. It's a pillow. It's a pillow. It's a rep. It's a door. It's a bird. It's a slide. Say, it's a slide. It's a slide. There you go. Nice job. Thanks. It's a potato. Good. It's a camera. Good boy. It's a toothbrush. Good job. It's a ladybug. Uh-huh. It's a couch. Good boy. That was really good. He's really getting those ending sounds in the words. It's really good. Yeah, the way he articulates the different sounds in the words, because a lot of those words are really hard to say. It's really good compared to what it was like when we initially taught him. And I know we added the words that he can't articulate very well in echoics, and I guess that helped too. But just hearing the fluency and the way he says it is really good. I'm impressed.
But he seems like he's really trying to.
Yeah, and he makes all the sounds in the words now versus, he'll just slur the words like before. Like, what word did he say? It was really good. I don't remember, but like chicken would have been like a slurred word. Like, I don't know. I don't even remember. But
it's like shisho.
Yeah, but he really tries to articulate every sound now, especially the ending sounds too, like cat and dog. Like he really tries. It's really good. A lot of progress. Hey, Bobby. Huh? You are so smart, Jack Riley. You bobblehead? So lucky. Huh? What? Whoa. What? Whoa, what?
What?
Say it again. Were you saying something?
What? So you're a monkey? What? Okay, aww. I'm here. What? You want to look?
Look.
See, I want to look.
I want to look.
Okay. What do you want to see?
Can you sing to the camera?
Wait, look at who is that?
Jack Riley.
Jack Riley? Can Jack Riley say hi?
Say, how are you doing? Oh, you want to look at yourself. Can I show off?
Whoa.
Hi.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
Hello, my friend.
Great to have you back here.
Thanks.
You've had a very busy week.
Yes. You got a big laugh out of when I texted you last week that, yeah, I'm doing fine.
We should
well,
say
first
you
of all,
were moving.
I was moving, but I just want to kind of set the stage for this so everybody doesn't think I'm making a mountain out of a molehill.
Oh, look, we think moving is hard anyway.
Everybody thinks moving is hard, but yes. Wyatt and Reed and I were living in a neighborhood in California called Hidden Hills. Many of you have probably heard of that neighborhood because it is also where Jennifer Lopez lives. Kanye and Kim just bought a house there. You know, all of these are first. J-Lo, Kanye and Kim, Britney Spears lived there for a while, Will Smith. Now, don't think that I hang with these people and that I live on their level, because Hidden Hills began in the 1950s as a horse community. And we moved there so I could keep my aging thoroughbred and a pony for Wyatt in the backyard. We bought the cheapest house in Hidden Hills, which was an old ranch, and I mean old, built in, by California standards, built in 1955. And it was on an acre, but the house was very modest and small, and it was an old-timer house. Then, because it is a gated community, the rich and the famous started moving in there, and I think it's very fitting that when Nancy and Reed moved out, Kanye and Kim moved in. It's like, it's something symbolic about that. But not only did I have to move our, 2,000 square foot house, but I had to move horses, donate them to Special Spirits Riding Program. I had to move a tack room, Wyatt's art studio, a very old gymnasium with like equipment from the 1950s, my husband's office, a storage room.
It was a compound. It was a compound.
It was a compound for animals and kids, and moved that into a 2,000 square foot small house with no yard, but a little tiny pool, which we are very grateful for. So it was rather an undertaking. My body's covered with bruises, and you got a big laugh last week when you said, "How are you?" And I said, "Fine." Hunter, our big dog, had already peed all over the white carpet in our house, which we're renting. Wyatt had a tantrum that morning because he couldn't find half of his things, and I told you I was wearing Wyatt's Hanes underwear, the kind that come to, the little boxer type shorts, and I wore them for 4 days.
And I said, and you said because you couldn't find your own underwear.
I couldn't find my own underwear.
And I said, that is the quintessential reality for a mom who's moving. Because, other people might be stopped by that. And certainly the male people in my house would be stopped by, I can't find my underwear. But a woman says,
I'll wear
what's
my
around?
son's.
What's around?
I go into Wyatt's room, and they were a little snug, not too snug. And and I actually enjoyed wearing them. I did wash them every night, I want you to know.
I feel better about that.
But, had I had an accident, they might have wondered why I had on boys' underwear.
If they were comfortable, I'm sure that there are lots of young
but just so you
women
know, I know autism moms are very adaptable by nature, but as always with a move, I think what we discover is how little we need. That I got by basically for 2 weeks with 2 outfits, a pair of cargo pants, a tank top, Wyatt's underwear, and, I was just fine, and a bandana wrapped around my head. And, it really made me realize, and so what we started doing, rather than, people kept saying, well, because we didn't have enough room for any of our things, plus I shipped when my mom and dad passed away 2 years ago, I shipped a lot of their things out here. And everybody kept saying, go to consignment, sell this, do a yard sale, go to consignment, go to consignment. What it finally came down to was we donated most of our things to the church because I would rather see my mother's dining room table and chairs and my grandmother's needlepoint in the ladies' guild room than think that I got a couple of $100 for it. It just,
so donating.
donating. It's such a good thing. And, you know, our church is having a rummage sale, and we had friends that needed things, and any friend that helped me move, I said, take your pick of whatever's here.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was really, I was so touched by the friends that helped us over this process, including you and Jim and Jem.
Very minimally. I
Well,
was not a
no,
good
you
friend
were
in
not
this.
minimal. In fact, you took care of my husband for a day, and he said you practiced ABA on him. You put him on extinction several times.
I did. It's true.
Yeah.
And told him I was, too.
Yeah, so he deserved that and needed that,
He
and I'm
did.
really glad he got a little training from you. So while we're not
we're
completely
nipping that behavior right there. That's
Right.
not acceptable.
Right. So while we're not completely settled, the move is over. I'm ready to seize the day with the fall. And we got lots of incredible things coming up at Act Today. Denim and Diamonds, our biggest fundraiser of the year, which is going to be very exciting. We're honoring Nolan Gould, who won. They won the Emmy again for
Yes.
Modern Family, and Holly and
Wonderful
Rodney P.
young man.
So we'll be telling you more about that. But let's talk about in the news. We've got some very big news.
Yeah, we had covered briefly yesterday that they were approaching the date for Kelly Stapleton. Talked about her briefly, her backstory. A mom whose blog I looked at and said, this is somebody I would be friends with.
One of us, yeah.
She's one of us. I mean, that certainly, I identified with her wholly, but some things happened in her life which led her to the point where she felt like she needed to take her own life and that of her daughter, Izzy, who's on the autism spectrum.
Right. Now, we want to say, first and foremost, we never condone murder. We never condone suicide. We never condone the taking of a life. However, I have on several occasions expressed compassion for some of these parents, and it's made some people a little angry with me, like, how can you do that? Well, I think we cannot judge ever, and I think these things, we need to learn from them. And because at Act Today, I deal with parents every day that are literally in desperation and at the end of their rope. And a lot of these parents are suffering from what experts say really is a form of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And so let's talk about what happened yesterday with Kelly.
So yesterday, Kelly Stapleton pled guilty to a lesser charge of child abuse, first-degree child abuse, which I believe first-degree means that it's premeditated and that that's a particularly heinous form of child abuse, but it's lesser than murder.
The plea still carries the possibility of life behind bars, a life sentence for the 46-year-old woman. Now, we had, did you mention yesterday we were going to have Julie Ross?
Was supposed to be with us today. We were hoping she was going to be with us today.
Julie is a producer who I worked with in my television days. When I think she worked on the Lisa Gibbons show with me. She is now at Dr. Phil, and Julie conducted an exclusive interview with Kelly Stapleton, which aired, I believe, already on Dr. Phil. I don't know if it aired already.
I don't think so. I think it's upcoming.
Oh, it's upcoming. Okay. So we had her set to speak with today. Lots of things because of all the legal logistics, and we're trying to find out if Julie can even share with us some of the things she learned, because she visited Kelly in prison or in jail. And I do have to say she had a very favorable impression of Kelly. I mean, really liked her for what that's worth, and felt in very sad that this situation had happened to this woman, because I think she went in not knowing what to expect and told me she really liked her. So that's going to be very interesting. If we can talk to Julie, we're going to let you know when that interview, if and when it comes up.
But we do have today Vince Redmond, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist that we have on a regular basis. We've asked him to join us because I had mentioned yesterday, too, there was another story that was in the news over the weekend friend over this long weekend of a family, 82-year-old gentleman who took his own life, but first killed his wife and their 2 adult children who had special needs. And particularly heartbreaking because everyone in the community expressed how these 2 parents were the most doting, wonderful parents who took that they not only took good care of those people, but were loving and, ideal, exemplary parents, and that it really struck at the heart of the entire community because he did tell a friend beforehand, this is what I'm going to do. His health was failing, and that this is the decision he'd made. That person went to the police.
Where is Elmhurst?
I think it's just outside of Chicago.
Okay.
So, but by the time the police got there, it was already done. Devastating. And there are 2 surviving children that are not special needs. I can't imagine what they're going through at this time. So we thought we would have Vince join us today to talk about how people get to that point, what we can do if we're afraid for somebody, and what we can be doing every day so that we never get to a point where that's a realistic idea in our heads.
And I think another thing that's important for us in the autism community is that if we come across another parent who we feel is at this stage of desperation, because I do get this quite often in dealing with the parents applying for grants at Act Today, and it's really hard because they have to go through the official grant process with us, the application process, and some of the parents are so stressed and so in crisis they can't even get it together to do that, and I can understand that. So we sometimes offer help, especially if it's a Spanish speaking, they don't speak English or they don't have computer. They can call our office and speak with Chrissia or Amy to help them, but I think that people in the neighborhood said that they had sent out a card, the Stack family, this gentleman in question, saying they were getting older and sick, and that's why they weren't out as much. The neighbors said they thought of it as a cry for help and regret not having gone over to ask. It reminds me of a song. Have you heard that song? I think it's by Snow Patrol, How to Save a Life. And it's a song about where did I go wrong along the way? You asked for help, and I couldn't spend a night saving a life. And for those of us that have had friends, as I have, who have committed suicide, I think you're sometimes tormented with, could I have done more? If you see signs of someone in desperation, it's really important that you urge them to get help and don't ignore those signs.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're going to be talking about all of this with Vince, how we recognize the signs in ourselves and how we recognize it in other people and what kinds of action we can take.
Right.
Autism Speaks has started a new 24-hour hotline for people to be able to call in if they're having issues.
I
love
that.
Which is a very interesting thing. So in any case, we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back with Vince Redmond, licensed and marriage family therapist. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, where is he? What is he doing? Is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. Act Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yes.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, we wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them, and they're making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. We underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We are welcoming Vince Redmond via Skype. Vince is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He is also of a unique breed because he was an autism therapist for so long, has worked with so many individuals, both little kids, teenagers, and adults. So he has so much experience in this area, and then on top of that, to be a licensed marriage and family therapist, he is just a gift to us. So Vince, welcome back.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
We're good.
We're good, Vince.
And better that you're here.
Yes. Now, Vince,
the new fall schedule's off, and we're running.
We're
That's
off
right.
and running.
That's it.
Vince, we are also, as so many in our community and in and outside of the autism community, saddened by so many stories of so many desperate parents. And you heard Shannon and I talking about the older gentleman who killed his wife and his 2 disabled adult children, who the community said were loving parents. And of course, very much in the news and the headlines is Kelly Stapleton and her guilty plea of child abuse for the attempted suicide of herself and her daughter Izzy. We really want to talk to you about this issue of when parents start to get desperate, when do they need to seek help?
Early on, right? I mean, my thought is they need to seek help and resources and knowledge and information before we even get to that point.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the idea is to prevent it, not to even get there. Now, so we prong this into 2 parts. One being, making sure that families do everything they can, and we can talk more in detail about different ways they can get connected with ACT Today and get connected with, a lot of the resources that we have with support groups and different parent groups, and either it's maybe dietitians or doctors or all the stuff that they need. We have references for them so that they don't get overwhelmed, that they have resources to rely on, they have people to talk to, they have people that can help them from the very beginning, right? I mean, you both of you have intimate knowledge of what it was like that first day, that first week, that first year, first experience on. They're already overwhelmed, and they need people to hold them. They need people to guide them. They need people to give them good information so that they don't get to this point where it's overwhelming and they're thinking, about ending their life or ending others' life, right? Okay. It's terrible. But I think right now with all of the recent news, either it be with Kelly Stapleton or Robin Williams, or suicide is a really hot topic and shows you that it could happen at any time, anywhere, to anybody, and we need to be aware of what are the resources out there when they do get overwhelmed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And are Vince, they say there are a lot of signs that are early warning signals. Do you know a few of those? Should we talk about a few of those? Like they say if someone even brings up talking about suicide, that's even in a joking manner, it's not a joke.
Right. Well, I mean, it does always depend on the situation, but there's a lot of early signs, starting to isolate, starting to, again, bringing up more thoughts of death or talks about death or talks about what to do when I'm gone, or, starting to look at who's going to take care of their estate or assets or what have you. The biggest thing that I see is that when they start lacking, they completely start, removing or showing a lack of interest in anything, right? You have interest in your child, you have interest in your family, you have interest in careers or jobs or what have you, and all of a sudden we start to see lack of interest. They're not following through like they used to be. They're not as timely as they used to be. They're not taking care of themselves physically the way they used to. And when we see these physical changes or the behavioral changes, that is a big cue that something's going on, and we want to reach out to them at that time.
So if we're in that position and we do have friends, or we see somebody that's hurting, and we know they're overwhelmed, they have a child or possibly several children on the spectrum, they're in desperation, what can we do as the friends or family of those people? What's the best way for us to kind of intervene and start to get them support?
It's just that, being there for them, being that ear, reaching out to them, not letting them feel isolated. Giving them resources, giving them tools, bringing them to those resources, not just giving to them in a list that's going to go, away in a drawer, actually bringing them to support groups, or bringing them to a therapist, or giving them, a filled out, you had mentioned earlier in this segment, filling out the grants, right? Mm-hmm. Giving them a grant that's filled out, right? All they need to do is sign it. Mm-hmm. You're doing the work, doing a lot of the work for them.
Yeah. Can I bring up, I just want to give our website while we're talking, because if parents are listening, it's act-today.org, and our phone number is 818-340-4010. If you are in crisis, or if you don't know how to fill out the grant application, please call our office and speak with Amy or Chrissia. And get their assistance. There's, Kelby's put it up. Chrissia is there to help our Spanish-speaking parents. And if you are in absolute crisis, we do have something called ACT SOS. There used to be a CARD SOS, but there's an ACT SOS, and you need to let us know that. Because in some of those cases, we can put that grant, even though we have unfortunately hundreds of grants in waiting while we raise funds. We can sometimes put a grant ahead because it's a very severe situation. So sorry to interrupt, Vince. Go ahead.
And to double back, or to dovetail on what you're saying, if you're a CARD client or a part of CARD and you're feeling overwhelmed or you feel feelings, you can reach out to me in my department as well.
Okay.
My email is on the email address, or you can call the corporate headquarters, and they would be more than happy to get you in touch with me as well.
Okay. So if you are a CARD family and you are feeling like you're in crisis, you're overwhelmed, Vince Redmond is there to help you. I hope everyone heard that.
Absolutely.
And Shannon you're always here to help the families.
We're here. You can email. But I want to say too, though, that Autism Speaks has a new 24-hour.
Okay. Yes. Do we know the number on it?
I was looking for it, and I have it somewhere. I'll find it during the next break.
That's great service.
That's 24/7, and Vince and I are both single.
Single
individuals.
people. Yes, I know.
We're not single. We're married and we have kids.
No, I know, and I'm only one person too.
Right.
And sometimes what happens for me is that parents will, in crisis, I will start working with them, and then I end up devoting a lot of time to one family when I could be helping many families, and that's always a conflict for me because I like to stay close to what we're about, but sometimes I just can't help one individual case at a time.
But Autism Speaks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that's always there, and that's a wonderful addition to our community that they have that hotline.
And there is also suicide prevention organizations. There are many of them that you can look up on the web, and a lot of those have 24-hour hotlines as well.
But one of the things I want to bring up, Vince, is that in a lot of the cases that we've seen recently where it was a really, to all outsiders looking at it, was parents who were super duper on it, caring for their children. And we've seen this in at least 3 different cases that I can point my finger to in the last year. What happened was that they were moving along, things were hard, but they were getting along, and then something happened that raised the level of hope, where they felt like things were going to get better. and that hope got taken away, and that was when things went completely black. And so I want to talk a little bit about, I think that we should never say, let's not give somebody hope. Hope is a really important thing, but especially for all of us to be aware of that if hope is dashed, that's a moment where we all need to be vigilant. Is this like a thing that happens to everybody, or is this just the autism community?
It's a roller coaster, right? I mean, life's a roller coaster. Life's, a series of successes and failures. And I think you're right. When things are going along good and they're getting services, and maybe their children are progressing well, and then they lose services, or they lose a job and they can't pay for co-payments, or they graduate out of school and so there's no more school support. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen that we would know at least what the next step would be for them, right? And for the family, tapping them into different resources. Like we said, there's nationally, known resources, there's internal resources that we have, and there's resources within their local community that might not be about autism, it might be more about just self-preservation and self-care, therapy, support groups, those types of things. So being able to, when those failures happen or when those disappointments happen in one's life, that's where we're needed the most. We're not needed the most when everything's going well. We're needed the most when things aren't going well. And I think that's essential to make sure that we're, like we were saying earlier, we're there with resources, guides, help, education, and so forth when those disappointments come up.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to say to parents that are listening and, know other parents who are in desperate situations. So often it does seem to be a financial situation that maybe things are going okay, and then they lose their funding, or they find out, and this happened to me, I found out that money that I thought was safe in an IRA account actually was not, and that we owed an enormous tax bill. And I remember the desperation I felt that day, and I remember the dark thoughts, and I basically spent 2 days in bed crying. Yeah. Because I was feeling so hopeless, and this was like a year and a half ago. But thankfully I had friends that I could call. Shame is such a terrible thing, and we cannot be afraid to share when something happens, like if we are facing a bankruptcy, or we're facing, we don't have the funds anymore and we need help. Oftentimes I think the despair really comes when there's shame attached and you can't be open and honest about these things. And I'm here to tell you, I face these things, right, Shannon?
Absolutely, and I have too.
Yeah.
And when I think the shame is worse as an autism parent when you feel like, because of what actions you did or didn't take, you're not going to be able to provide for your child. Right. That's when the helplessness gets overwhelming. So what I'd love to do, because we're almost out of time, is I'd love for each one of us to say at least one suggestion for things that you can do well before this happens, things to keep us on track and to stay connected. So we'll start with you, Vince. What's something that parents who are just in the day-to-day, that we all have to go through challenges, that haven't yet gotten to the point where they think, what are some things that we can do to be preserving our mental health so we don't get to this point?
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Take physical care of yourself. Take physical care of your relationship with your husband or your wife. That's the biggest thing. You guys are going to need each other, and you need to be in good health with energy and resources that are going to have to come from within. And one of the pitfalls I see with many families is they let themselves and their needs go to the wayside, and then they don't have all the resources and all of the energy that is needed to get through these tough times. So mine is to definitely take care of yourself, do things that will keep you in good mental and physical health.
Okay, not to be redundant, but in terms of taking care of yourself, for me, I needed something much more in my life than just the self-care, like going to get a manicure or a massage or something like that. And one of the things that I started doing was turning very much to my church and finding a lot of help from our minister, who spent a lot of time with my family. I found a spiritual director, a woman who's a monk, an Episcopal monk, and I go on retreats twice a year up to a monastery in Santa Barbara that are nurturing retreats. And in addition to that, I really want to take the stigma off having to seek help from a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I have done both. For years, I spent many years in talk therapy. I am on medication for depression and anxiety. I've had generalized anxiety disorder for many years, long before Wyatt was born. And I have been on a serotonin reuptaker for probably 14 years now. And I do see a psychiatrist and I get meds prescribed and something to help me sleep as well. Take the stigma away. You know, the world is different now than it was when our parents and our grandparents, there are so many more stressors, and sometimes you need medication. And some psychiatrists and psychologists will take, insurance and Medicare and Medi-Cal. So don't be afraid to seek medication. You may be a candidate.
And I'll add to both of those things and say, find places and people that are a safe place to be honest and vent. Writing for me is a great place for me to get things out and be honest, but also having one or more people, whether it's a psychiatrist or a therapist or whatever, that you can be honest with, that you can sort of dump feelings. Usually that's not your spouse, right? Right?
Right.
But some places where you could just be honest.
Right.
And
I
say
dump
on
with
the
you a lot. I dump with you a lot.
And likewise, to say, this is how I'm feeling today. This is what it is, to be honest and real about it, because sometimes when you say the thing that feels huge and immense and you go, bleh,
naming the fear.
And naming the fear, and the other friend looks at it and goes, it's not that bad. Then you look and go, yeah, you're right, it's not that bad. You poke it a couple of times and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So it doesn't get into this huge thing that's just in your head. I like to say, and I've talked about my panic disorder here on the show, and I did cognitive behavioral therapy, but I like to say that sometimes my brain is a scary neighborhood that I cannot go into by myself. Right?
Yeah,
I gotta take somebody with me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just not okay. Especially depending on where I am hormonally.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Talk about keeping it real. Vince, we love you.
Thank you. Love you guys too.
And I so appreciate you being here with us to talk about this really important topic that doesn't get discussed enough. We hope if you need help that you'll reach out and get it.
And we hope that by sharing our struggles, you understand you're not alone. You're never alone. You're never alone. There's always a human being that has been there. I mean, we all hit bottom. Shannon and I refer to it as the kitchen floor club. When we've been down on that kitchen floor praying for help, saying, God, just tell me what I need to do. And you got to get back off the floor. Sometimes it's those valleys that really bring us closer to our loved ones and get us more in touch with our spirituality and our inner strength and show us how strong we are. And we've been there, so you're not alone.
Right, and our outreach is much further than it ever has been.
That's right.
So we have a lot of resources, education, and stuff to help families that are in any need.
Absolutely. Well, Vince, we thank you for your time. We'll see you again in October. Until then, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Vince.
Sounds good. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with an update on the CDC whistleblower dealing with this whole question of vaccines. So stick with us.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Autism Research Group. We study ways to improve the lives of kids with autism. One of those ways is teaching safety skills, such as what to do if they get lost. We hit the streets to find out if anybody knows the correct answer on how to teach a kid what to do if they get lost. You're teaching the child.
What to do if they get lost?
Yeah, you're trying to make them independent so they have the skills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, give them a compass. Code name's good idea. Centurion.
We always have this whistle.
Oh, I'd also tell the kid, don't get scared. You're gonna be all right, man. This is just the world. This is planet Earth. You're at home here. As long as you're on planet Earth, you're at home.
As long as you're on planet Earth, you're home. This guy's a genius. With that flawless logic, he just solved our homeless problem. And as for the unique sounding whistle, although very cool, it'll probably only work if you're in close proximity. And a compass?
I have her call me.
Yeah, she doesn't have a phone. Parents are like, you're too young, you don't need a phone.
Establish some sort of like meeting place.
What if they can't find a meeting place? Because sometimes the kids get nervous when they get lost.
Yeah.
So like a backup plan,
Well,
plan B.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not really.
Let them go and find a new kid.
Yeah, I've got a different one. Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
There is stuff you can do.
Like,
That's right, there is stuff you can do. In 2012, myself, along with my colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski, published a study in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis on teaching kids what to do when they get lost. The study demonstrated how 3 simple things, rules, role-playing, and praise, were effective in establishing these help-seeking behaviors. The benefit of this method is it doesn't require the child to have a cell phone or to have to locate a meeting place, which might be difficult if they're in a place like Disneyland. So once again, our method included rules, role-playing, and praise. Let's head back outside and learn about some of these rules.
They should yell out loud. Can't find my mom, help me.
Maybe yell out and scream for help.
All right, scream really loud,
Correct.
And if that doesn't work, then,
I don't know.
well, they could seek help from someone.
Find an adult.
Yeah, go to a vendor, say I'm lost.
Find an adult, like a police officer or a fireman or an employee in the store, and tell them, and maybe they can help you contact your parent. It really is that simple. You don't need to get your kid a cell phone. You don't need to establish a meeting place that they might not be able to find when they're lost and panicking. And you definitely don't need to give them a compass. All your kid has to do is 3 things. First, yell mom or dad real loud. 2, if that doesn't work, find an employee. And then 3rd, tell the employee they're lost. If they can't locate an employee, then tell them to find a mother with children, because that's probably the safest person to approach. I'm not saying that most men are predators, but most predators are men. That is a fact. I've read it in a fortune cookie. All right, so you've gone over the rules with your kid, and you've quizzed them, and they're able to tell you the correct responses so they understand the rules. But is that enough? How do you know they're gonna perform correctly in a real-world setting? You need to get out there and find out if they can actually do it. So you'd go over the rules and tell them, like, do this, do that, but how would you know if they actually knew what to do? If you wanted to shoot a basketball, and I just told you, oh, when you shoot a basketball, do this, this, and this.
I never practiced.
You never practiced, yeah, so it doesn't matter how many times we go over the rules or how well you can repeat them back to me. It's not going to change until you get on the court and practice.
Maybe do like a little skit with them.
Like a role play?
Role play, yeah.
Your child, you're lost in the toy aisle.
Okay.
What do you do? I'm an attendant, walking around.
I'm lost, I don't know where my mom is. And then once you practice, you just like praise them, give them feedback, like, good job, you did it.
Reinforcing it.
Yes, this woman wins the prize for best comment. She pointed out the most important part of learning. Reinforcement. Now, in our study, we used praise, but for your kid, you might have to use something else. You might have to buy them a treat, a toy, take them to their favorite restaurant where they can eat unhealthy food and run around and climb through plastic tunnels that have the unmistakable scent of urine, and then play games spending $20 to get a plastic little spider ring that they will eventually lose in the ball pit. The point is, you need to reward your child for correctly demonstrating what you've been teaching them.
Okay, I'm gonna call her. Hello, your child, Ryan is missing. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So you tested it out
I'll
in the
try.
store to make sure I knew it. I had the rules,
Yes.
we role played it, and you made sure I knew it, and then like you said, good job, and all that. Now we're good to go.
We're good to go.
All right.
Done?
High five right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Give your child the rules, get out there and practice, and reward your child for responding correctly. For more information, please visit us online at autismresearchgroup.org. I'm Ryan Bergstrom. Thanks for watching. Yes, Yes, this woman wins the first. Yes, this woman. Yes, this woman wins the best. Yes, this woman wins the first place. Yes, this woman. Why can't I say woman? Yes, this woman wins. What's the line? Yes!
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. First of all, I want to say to the person who wrote into us and said, I love you, ladies.
We love you too.
And then we found the number for the Autism Speaks 24-hour hotline, which is 1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-TALK. T-A-L-K.
I am so happy to hear that they've started this. This is a service that
needed to be done.
is so needed. Okay.
And they're big enough that they can house that for 24 hours.
They can do
thank
it.
you to Autism
Yeah,
Speaks for
thank
that.
you.
Okay. Moving on.
All right. So the other big story that no one in the autism world has not heard about is the video that has been circulating with Dr. Andrew Wakefield with the whistleblower.
Bill Thompson.
Yes, on the CDC issue of vaccine safety, that the MMR was definitively linked to particularly an increase in autism in African American males, something like a 340% increase. And it's just got everybody buzzing because we all want to hear from the whistleblower himself.
Right. And we supposedly did last week in the press release that he did through his lawyers.
Okay.
That admitted that it was him on the tape. If that were to believe that press release, that it was him on the tape, but he said that he did not know that he was being taped.
Okay.
Did not intend for it to go public. That what he was looking for was a reevaluation of those studies. And that he was working closely with the CDC in hopes that that was going to happen.
Okay.
But there's new stuff
There's
today.
a new story that's come out. There is a website, and I don't have the name of it here, but it is from an independent investigative reporter. Okay, by the name of Atkinson, her name is. I don't have her first name here. But
I will find that.
Okay, you find that so I can give people where to look it up. Cheryl Atkinson, who apparently has quite an impressive background in investigative news reporting, which hard to tell if there is any real investigative news reporting going on these days with the fact that all of the major networks are owned by multinational corporations and do have ties to a lot of big business. So as to whether there is any really uncensored news anymore is a debate.
The website is Cheryl Atkinson, and the subtitle is Untouchable Subjects, Fearless Reporting.
Okay.
Her name is spelled S-H-A-R-Y-L Atkinson, A-T-T-K-I-S-S-O-N.
Right, and we hope to have her on the show.
Yeah, and it's CherylAtkinson.com.
Okay.
And you can go there to read about this story that we're going to talk and actually listen to audio tapes of her interviewing Frank DiStefano, who is the CDC Director of Immunization Safety.
So, this is a very interesting interview in that Frank DiStefano has actually gone on record and his response to her question, and is the current position, that any potential link between vaccines and autism, secondary, any kind at all, has been entirely ruled out 100%. To which DiStefano's response was, I guess every hypothesis that's been looked at has been ruled out. But I mean, can I say the CDC's position is that if anybody thinks there's anything anymore, it's a myth. It's all been disproven. DiStefano. Wouldn't say it's a myth. I'd say, you know, all the evidence thus far points to that there's not a causal association between vaccines and autism. What about secondary? DiStefano. See, I don't understand. What do you mean, secondary? What about not causal, but as a result of vaccines, as in the polling case, the Hannah polling case, which it was definitively proven that the MMR was the trigger for Hannah Polling's autism. And he goes on to say that that yes, that could be a possibility, and he says
the
later in the
inflammatory
piece,
quote, because we got to get
the
to it. We're less than
inflammatory
a minute.
quote. I guess that is a possibility. It's hard to predict who those children might be, but certainly individual cases can be studied to look at those possibilities.
So
First time there has been an admission, and we have to trust this reporter, that there might be some kids that vaccines can be a trigger for autism.
All right.
First time.
So we're out of time, but I want to remind everybody that tomorrow we're going to be here with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. We're also going to be here with Dr. Adele Nadowski. We're going to be taking on EF skills. You're going to love it. Send your question. EF, executive functions. We'll talk. It's really good stuff.
Right.
It's finding ways to get our kids to meet their goals, and for us as well. Good stuff. So we'll be doing that tomorrow, and we'll be back next week. We've got some great guests. I can't, for the life of me, think who it is right at this moment in time, but we're out of time.
I can't either.
So please, until tomorrow, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you as well.
And until next week, give yourselves a hug from me and be gentle with yourselves today.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye for now.